Hola a todos y bienvenidos. Welcome to another Coffee Break Spanish live lesson here from Scotland. Estamos aquí en Escocia. Hoy hace sol. Hace frío, pero hace sol. Estamos contentos porque si hace sol en Escocia, pues todo está bien. We're delighted that it's sunny today in Scotland, and I hope it is sunny where you are. Now, this is another in our series of live lessons for our special Spring Forward with Your Language Learning Week. We are having 4 days with 4 live workshops, and this is giving you the chance to practice your language skills in a variety of activities and also experience a little bit of what we are explaining as the Coffee Break Club. Now, I'll tell you more about the Coffee Break Club in just a moment, but first of all, muy importante, vamos a ver quién está con nosotros hoy. Who do we have with us today? We've got Barbara joining us from Northeast England. Barbara, great to have you here. Richard is joining us in Wiltshire. We've got Bjorn from Los Angeles. O sea, Loso. Hola, Bjorn. We've got Maureen joining us from Los Gatos, California. Very early for you, Maureen. We've got Gillian in Suffolk. And Bjorn saying, sí, hace sol aquí en California. Por supuesto. Pues yo estaba en California hace 2 semanas en San Diego y ha llovido. It was raining. Llovió mucho. 3 días de lluvia. Pues no está bien. It's not good at all. We have got Joby joining us from Hong Kong. We've got David joining us in North Berwick. We have Karen in Toronto. Denise is joining us, whose brain is no longer working because she's just listening to Coffee Break French and German over the past hour. Lots of you joining us today. Thank you so much for being here. And today, as I say, we're going to be working through another video lesson. And this time we're doing some reading and discovering something about the world. So before we get into that, let me explain a little bit about the context of this, because what we've come up with the Coffee Break Club is an answer to a question that we've been really trying to answer for a long time. Because when we think about language learning and think about using videos to learn language, obviously for many years we've been using podcasts and we continue to publish new podcast materials. But with video adds something extra because we can see the words on the screen as we're listening, and it helps us increase our understanding, increase our language experience. But if we think about the kind of materials out there, then we might think about YouTube, and we could go to YouTube and find some content on YouTube and watch that, and maybe that would be useful. However, sometimes the content on YouTube is so varied and it's quite distracting because you suddenly find yourself watching a video about something completely different, and your focus on language learning is taken away, and you end up watching cats or, in my case, studio tours and things like that. So if we were thinking about the YouTube experience, yes, there's content on there which will help us learn, but it's a little bit unorganized and sometimes we're not sure of the quality. If we're thinking about general entertainment and enjoyment, then obviously we can think about platforms like Netflix or Prime or Hulu or any number of platforms out there. But what we wanted to try to do was create something that would help you build your skills in a similar way to almost like getting fit. So if we think of video libraries like Peloton or Apple Fitness Plus, these are organizations or companies who have put together fitness videos where you can take a course in yoga or take a course in running or HIIT or any kind of fitness type of content. And we wanted to recreate that, but make it for language learning. And that's what we came up with the Coffee Break Club. It's an on-demand library of video lessons where you've got hundreds of videos in the language that you're learning with expert teachers, of course. And all of these videos are varied, so there's lots of different types of activities, and you can access them both on the web platform, if you're sitting at your desk, or indeed on our mobile app on Android, on iOS, and even if you're sitting at the TV, watching the TV, you can access it on a Roku device or an Apple TV device. So I'm going to go into more detail about the club a bit later, but for now, let's think about the video that we're going to watch today, because this is one of these example videos from the club, and we're going to be doing some reading along with Anabel, I think, is joining us today. So we're going to read a text and discover something about the world, because that's another important aspect of what we're trying to do, help you learn Spanish, but in an interesting context. If you have any questions at all about any of the language that we cover within this video, then do post them in the chat and I'll be able to see these while we're watching the video and I'll be able to answer your questions after the video lesson. ¿Todo bien? Espero que esto sea claro y vamos a empezar el video con Anabel. Hola, Anabel.
Doy la bienvenida al club. Me llamo Anabel and today I have a discovery video for you, or vídeo de descubrimientos. In each of our vídeo de descubrimientos, we look at fascinating facts from around the world. We'll also take an in-depth look at our text and talk about the interesting language points in it. Así que, si está todo preparado, vamos a descubrir el mundo.
Today's video is called Toros en las carreteras, which means bulls on the roads. We are going to read the full text and find out if we are talking about real bulls or not. Let's start. El toro es un símbolo icónico de España. Es común ver grandes siluetas de toros por toda España. Pero, ¿de dónde vienen? En 1956, la bodega Osborne empezó a colocar carteles con forma de toro para publicitar su Jerez. Estos carteles se colocaron por todo el país y rápidamente se hicieron famosos. Hoy en día hay 92 toros de Osborne que pueden verse en las cimas de toda España. Sin embargo, en 1994 se promulgó una ley que prohibía la publicidad de alcohol en las carreteras. Afortunadamente, como los toros de Osborne gustaban tanto, en lugar de eliminarlos, se pintaron de negro. So that was the text, and now we know that they were not real bulls on the road. Now we are going to look at each sentence individually and pick out some important grammar and vocabulary points. Empezamos. El toro es un símbolo icónico de España. Es común ver grandes siluetas de toros por toda España. Pero, ¿de dónde vienen? El toro, de bull, es un símbolo icónico de España. Es un símbolo icónico, an iconic symbol, de España of Spain. Es común, is common, ver grandes siluetas. It's common to see or seen big silhouettes de toros, of bulls, por toda España, all around Spain. Pero, ¿de dónde vienen? But where are they from? Excelente. So we have started with a long sentence, but with some quite, or just like fairly easy grammar. There were some irregular verbs, but let's continue. We have some numbers. En 1956, la bodega Osborne empezó a colocar carteles con forma de toro para publicitar su Jerez. So, en 1956, in 1956, but in Spanish we'll say 1956, so 1956. La bodega Osborne Winery, so bodega can be a cellar or in this case a winery, and then Osborne is the name. Empezó, here the verb is empezar, so started because it's in the preterite tense. Empezó a colocar. When we start doing something or to do something, in Spanish we are going to use the verb empezar, then the preposition a, followed by an infinitive. So, empezó a colocar, started to place, carteles, billboards. The singular form is cartel with an L, and this is a masculine noun. So, it's el cartel, the billboard. So, the Osborne Winery started to place billboards con forma de toro, in a bull shape or shaped like a bull, para publicitar, to advertise, su Jerez, their sherry. Estos carteles se colocaron por todo el país y rápidamente se hicieron famosos. So we continue talking about carteles. Here we can see that it's masculine and it's in its plural form. So estos carteles, these billboards. se colocaron, were placed. And this is the passive se, or the passive structure using a se. This se is not a pronoun, it's not reflexive, it's not any type of pronoun. This is just to show that this is in the passive voice. That's why in English we say were placed. And then por todo el país, all around the country. Y rápidamente, and quickly, that mente usually is the ly in English, so rápida or rápido is quick, and then mentally, so quickly, se hicieron famosos. Here again se, and this is again the passive voice. So what we are saying is that they were, and then hicieron is the verb hacer in its preterite form, which is irregular. So se hicieron, they were done or made, and then famosos, famous, which agrees in masculine and plural with carteles, billboards. Hoy en día hay 92 toros de Osborne que pueden verse en las cimas de toda España. Hoy en día is a lovely expression or phrase just to say nowadays. So, hoy en día, nowadays. Hay, there is, or there are, like in this case, 92 toros de Osborne, Osborne bulls, que pueden verse, that can be seen. Okay, pueden verse, here we are using poder plus infinitive, pueden verse, en las cimas de toda España. In all the tops of Spain, it's usually like just beside the road and in a very high place. That's why here we are using cima. Cima is just like the top of a mountain, or just like the peak, or any top. So, cima. De toda España, of all Spain. Sin embargo, en 1994 se promulgó una ley que prohibía la publicidad de alcohol en las carreteras. Sin embargo, a very useful linker, that is however. Sin embargo, however, en 1994, another number, another date. So here, 1994, 1994, se promulgó. This is the verb promulgar, and here again we are using that passive se. So this just means that it's in the passive voice, at least in Spanish. Promulgar is a very specific word to talk about laws. So it's like to pass a law, to enact, but to pass a law. And as I said, just very specific for laws. That's why here we have una ley. Se promulgó una ley. A law was passed. Que prohibía, here we are talking about that law, una ley, which is feminine. And that law prohibía, it banned, la publicidad, the advertisement, de alcohol, so alcohol advertisement or advertising, en las carreteras, on the road. So from 1994, advertising alcohol, just like on the road, or like being able to see those type of advertisements, were illegal. So let's see what happened with these billboards that were just like promoting Osborne Winery. Afortunadamente, como los toros de Osborne gustaban tanto, en lugar de eliminarlos, se pintaron de negro. Afortunadamente, luckily, and as we saw before with rápidamente, here we have another adverb ending in mente, which is that ly. Afortunado or afortunada is lucky, or like to be lucky, and then that mente, luckily. So afortunadamente, luckily, como los toros de Osborne gustaban tanto, here we have that como. But this como is not like, it's as, because. So we are here giving a reason of what happened. So, como los toros de Osborne, as Osborne bulls gustaban tanto, were so beloved, en lugar de eliminarlos, en lugar de, instead of, and then eliminarlos, to not eliminate, but just like to take them away, and that los agrees with carteles, which is masculine and plural. So instead of taking away those billboards, se pintaron de negro. And here we also finish with another lovely se, or passive se. Se pintaron, they were painted. de negro, with like using black. So that's why nowadays we can see bulls just this on the side of the road, but they don't show the Osborne winery and they are not advertising alcohol. They are just like painting in black. So that was the text. Now we are going to read it again and let's have a look and look carefully to all these passive says and all the linkers and the grammar that we have looked at. Vamos. El toro es un símbolo icónico de España. Es común ver grandes siluetas de toros por toda España. Pero ¿de dónde vienen? En 1956, la bodega Osborne empezó a colocar carteles con forma de toro para publicitar su Jerez. Estos carteles se colocaron por todo el país y rápidamente se hicieron famosos. Hoy en día hay 92 toros de Osborne que pueden verse en las cimas de toda España. Sin embargo, en 1994 se promulgó una ley que prohibía la publicidad de alcohol en las carreteras. Afortunadamente, como los toros de Osborne gustaban tanto, en lugar de eliminarlos, se pintaron de negro.
Gracias por ver el vídeo de descubrimientos de hoy conmigo. I definitely learned something new today from our topic, and I hope you did too, and enjoy practicing your Spanish. I'm Anabel, and I'll be back soon with another video like this one in the club. Hasta entonces, happy coffee breaking.
Muchas gracias, Anabel. Thank you very much indeed. And I hope that you also have learned something today with Anabel. Now, like you, I'm sure I've seen many of these bulls on the roadside and I have wondered, let me see, I think it was Denise who said, Denise said, have often seen them but never knew the history. I did not know the history either. And isn't it wonderful learning something about the world, but doing so through the medium of another language, the language that we are learning. So we've got some questions that I'm going to deal with in just a moment. But what I would like to ask you is first of all, I'm going to go through some points from this text and look at the interesting aspects of the text. First of all, then, we heard some numbers, so we had some dates, and it's great to hear the numbers and see them written out at the same time. So we had 1956, 1956, 1994, 1994, and it's always tricky when you see a date to be able to say it immediately, and it's great to have further practice of that. We saw a number of adverbs, things like rápidamente, afortunadamente. We got some interesting passives in there too, so los carteles se colocaron, se promulgó, se pintaron, and so on. We had a great example of por when it's used to mean throughout, so por todo el país, throughout the whole country. And then that really interesting verb, promulgar una ley, to lay down a law, to create a law. And then a really interesting use of gustar. And Hillbill Duncan has said, not sure I understood the use of gustaban here. So let's just look at this section again. So I'm going to put this on the screen. Hang on, let me check. Los toros de Osborne gustaban tanto. Okay, so los toros de Osborne gustaban tanto. I'll just put that there. So we've got los toros de Osborne gustaban tanto. Let's have a look at this. So literally what we're seeing here, the bulls of Osborne gustaban tanto. They were pleasing so much. So it kind of means people loved them so much. People liked them so much because gustar is used in this roundabout way. You don't say, I like something. You say, something pleases me. So, me gusta la música. Me gustan los toros de Osborne. So we could imagine this here as meaning los toros de Osborne gustaban tanto a la gente. They were pleasing to people. So the bulls were pleasing so much to people. So I hope that answers your question, Duncan, as we see the use of gustar there. Let me see. Elaine's also seen the bulls in Mis Vacaciones en Fuerteventura. David is asking, ¿por qué usamos colocar en lugar de poner? So los carteles se colocaron. Colocaron is just a more kind of elegant word used in a sort of more formal context here. I hope that answers your question, David. And Bjorn is asking, ¿y el nombre Jerez? No lo conocí antes. So, Jerez is sherry. The drink sherry comes, of course, from the town in Spain, Jerez de la Frontera. And that is where we get the name sherry. Sherry is an anglicization, if you like, of the word Jerez in Spanish. So lots of really interesting things that we picked up on here, and I think it's great being able to do so within the context of a text that we read, that we can listen to, and we see at the same time. And as I said, this is just an example of one of the many videos from the Coffee Break Spanish Club. What I'd like to know is what you learned today. What was the one word or the one piece of vocabulary that was new to you? Or indeed, was there something that you perhaps knew already, but you were reminded about by watching this video? Because that's what it's all about, taking little steps forward all the time and being able to increase your understanding and build your knowledge of the language. Now, this is one video from the Coffee Break Spanish Club. There is so much content in the club. Let me just scroll down here to the Coffee Break Spanish content. If we click on See All, yesterday we did a Donde me encuentro hoy video. You'll see there are more discovery videos, dinosaurios, bailarines, gracias serpientes. I don't really like the look of that one because I'm not a fan of snakes. Los misterios de la isla de Pascua, that sounds interesting. We've got also 5-minute Spanish videos, so here's vocabulary videos. There are some translation challenge videos, reading texts. We've also got our SIP videos, and SIP stands for Study, Investigation and Practice. We like to learn Spanish sip by sip here at Coffee Break. But Study, Investigation, Practice videos, that's where we study a particular topic or a grammar point. We investigate it further with some examples, and then we practice it with some challenges, with some translations or comprehension exercises. So lots of SIP videos in the club too. And we also have some coffee breaks with, so there's a coffee break with Mark and Anabel, another one there. So we've got lots of content, and this is being added to all the time. You can see as we keep scrolling down, there's just more and more content, a never-ending library of content that you can use to practice your Spanish a little bit every day. So just before we finish off, we've got some questions here and some comments, but if I can just outline some details about the Coffee Break Club first. As I said, it's an on-demand library of video lessons with hundreds of videos, adding to that all the time, expert teachers with varied activities, and it's a web platform and app. Now, the cost of the club is $19.99 per month. We have to sell it in dollars based on the platform that we're using to deliver the club. But we're offering you 30% off your first month this week. So that would bring your total cost for a year accessing the club to $234 to access all of this video content and all the new content that we put on there over the course of a year. Now, the club also offers access not just to Spanish, but to French, German and Italian. So if you're interested in more than one language, you can practice your language skills for those languages too with the club. We also offer a quarterly option, and that's $44.99 per quarter. Again, there's 30% off that first quarter, so that brings it down to about $31 or something like that. So if you were to go for the quarterly option and you get 30% off your first quarter, then the total cost over the first year would be $166.50. Now, yesterday we did another live lesson and we got lots of requests after that for an annual cost. And so this morning we've put together an annual option, and we are delighted to announce that you can now purchase a yearly subscription to the club, and that's $199.99. And again, there's 30% off your first payment. So if the first payment is for a year, that brings it down to $140 for a year to access all of this amazing content. And that for UK viewers is about £112. So £112 for a year's worth of access to all of these materials, which we're adding to all of the time in French, German, Spanish and Italian. It's a no-brainer. Hopefully, this will convince you that the club is definitely something that will help you practice your Spanish in a daily, regular way, just doing a little bit of learning each day. So, all you need to do to take advantage of this is go to coffeebreaktv.com so you can save 30% on your first month and or your first quarter, or indeed your first year, using the coupon code. It's coming up. What is it? It's Spring30. Spring30 to take 30% off your first month, your first quarter, or your first year to access all of this content. Jeffrey is asking, ¿puede hablar de passive verbs? So the passive verbs that we saw in the text were los carteles se colocaron. So they were erected, they were placed. Se pintaron, they were painted. It's quite a big topic, and we've got another different lesson in Italian starting in 2 minutes, so I'm afraid I can't go into it in much detail here, but there is lots of explanations in the Coffee Break Club and in our Coffee Break lessons. Sally was saying, I was reminded of the use of the passive voice. I was put off using this by a Spanish friend who told me it wasn't used much. Well, it isn't necessarily used particularly much in spoken Spanish, but in these kind of texts or in a newspaper or articles, you'll see it all the time. So it's definitely worth understanding and learning. Karen mentions here, good reminder that afortunadamente means fortunately, not unfortunately. A very good point, Karen. Well done. Jenny Stout learned hoy en día, so hoy en día, nowadays. Nicole learned sin embargo and hoy en día. And Vendigo said there were 7 new words for me today. Barbara saying, I don't know why I'm saying se so much, but this is my first introduction to it. So it can be used as a reflexive pronoun, but it's also used in this passive way. Maureen's asking, is this the same as Coffee Break TV? So the club is hosted on Coffee Break TV. Coffee Break TV is the platform, the club is the product, because you can also access your academy courses on Coffee Break TV, but those are separate from the club. So if you've bought season 1, for example, in the academy, then you can access that on Coffee Break TV app or web platform, but that's different from the club. The club is the separate membership for all of this other content. Karen's asking, can you purchase and share login with family members? You will probably experience difficulties if there are different IP addresses involved. So if you're in one location and another family member is in a different country or whatever, that will be difficult. But there shouldn't be any problem. If you're in the same household, you and your partner, for example, can access it there. Kathy's asking, so if I buy a year for $140, can I have access to other languages other than Spanish? Yes, Kathy, you get access to all of the club languages, so that's French, Italian, Spanish, and German for the club within Coffee Break TV app if you purchase the club membership. I hope that makes sense. I'm really sorry, it's very tight today, but I've got to finish off there because we're just about to start our Italian version of the same, it's not the same content, a completely different lesson, but we're just about to start Italian today. And I've got to change my t-shirt to my green t-shirt. So I will be back in just a moment on YouTube, and we'll be joining our Coffee Break Italian Facebook learners over on Facebook in just a moment. Muchísimas gracias, como siempre. We'll be back tomorrow at 5 o'clock UK time, 12 noon Eastern. For now, muchas gracias y hasta la próxima.